Hi, I'm Emily Williams, the founder of the top success and personal development company for driven women called I Heart My Life. I grew my company from $442 to seven figures in my first 18 months. And since then, it's become a movement for women who know they're meant for something big and refuse to settle. At I Heart My Life, we operate with the belief that anything is possible and no dream is too big. We're all about combining business strategy, deep mindset work, high performance practices, money tips, and a whole lot of lifestyle to help you get the results you deserve in all areas of life. Because after all, we only get this one shot. This is your one-stop shop for all things inspiration. So grab your favorite drink and a pen and a notebook and get ready to be inspired. Oh, and if you're not a member of our community, go to iheartmylife.com/join and receive all of our emails and announcements. And while you're at it, copy and paste this episode link and share it with 3 friends. Now, on to the episode. Hey, it's Emily Williams, the founder of I Heart My Life and your host of the I Heart My Life show. This is episode 235. How to prep and ace your next brand photo shoot with Wendy Yalom. So today we have a special episode with a photographer I've worked with about 5 times now, everywhere from Paris to New York to a recent photo shoot in Greenbrier, West Virginia. Today, we're taking you behind the scenes and sharing our top tips for nailing your next photo shoot. We're also talking about getting in front of the camera and what it takes to really move past your fears, doubts, insecurities, all of that stuff that threatens to hold us back and stop us from putting ourselves out into the world. I also share how I prep for a photo shoot, how I choose my outfits, how I moved past my own insecurity of being bold and being truly myself. Basically, we go deep into the world of photo shoots. So whether you have a personal brand, a company, or you just want to take some amazing Instagram photos, this episode is for you. Wendy also shares her incredible story of starting as a wedding photographer and getting into branding photography completely by accident. So if you want to be inspired by another entrepreneur, this is also a great episode for you. And finally, if you are ready to book a photo shoot with Wendy or you're looking for a new photographer, check out her website. It's Wendy K. Yalom, that's YALOM.com. And you can take a look at the long list of impact makers she's had the pleasure of working with over the years. And you can join that list and get beautiful photos of your own. And as a bonus, if you go ahead and contact Wendy, sign up for a photo shoot and tell her that we sent you, us here at I Heart My Life, I'm going to give you access to our I Heart Branding course completely free. This is a 4-module course complete with workbook and video trainings, as well as my special massive photo shoot guide, where I share the before, during, and after of my photo shoot sessions and give you all of my best tips that I've learned over the years. Trust me, I literally went from a girl who cried after her photo shoot, the very first one, to somebody who's been able to do this a little more gracefully, and I want to help you do the same. So contact Wendy, book a shoot, and you will qualify for our amazing, impactful, step-by-step I Heart Branding course, plus the photo shoot guide. All right, let's dive into the episode. Welcome to the I Heart My Life show, Wendy. I feel like this is such a long time coming. So thank you for being here and being willing to share your wisdom and your story.
Oh, girl, I'm so grateful to be here with you. As you know, I've been such a fan of yours this whole journey, and I'm honored to have gotten to document it and excited to share and talking with you about it.
Yeah, I remember, before we get into your story, I remember, meeting you, and you've been with me since the beginning. I guess it would have been back in 2014. And I was in Gina DeVee's Divine Living Academy, and we had an event in Miami. And I remember I flew in from London, and it was around the time where everything started to change for me. I had literally gotten my first client just a few months earlier, but that month in particular, I was on track to hit a $30,000 month. And I remember being on stage and crying because I was so grateful and emotional with everything that was happening. But it's really embarrassing to look back and think about that. But I just remember you being this little like almost like a lightning bug or something, like popping around the room taking pictures because you were working with Gina and supporting her in the events, and you just had such a massive smile on your face the entire time, and it was like every shot was the best shot you could possibly capture. And I knew because of your magnetic energy that I wanted to work with you someday.
Oh my God, I love hearing that version of it. Thank you so much. Oh my God. Oh, and I love just
Yeah.
appreciating like what a big deal that was for you in 2014. And now it's like you're creating that for so many people. It's incredible. Yeah.
So take us back and tell us how you even got into this world of photography, in particular, personal branding and supporting women like myself to really kind of put images to what the impact is that they want to have in the world.
Yeah, I love that you asked that question. So I started my business in 2001. I became a photographer. I would call it becoming a photographer. I was really starting a business unbeknownst to me, like most of us when we start doing this kind of work. And I spent the first 10 years doing wedding photography. I loved wedding photography. I love being a part of the experience. I love being a photographer and just getting paid to take pictures seemed like a miracle. And then like around 2010, 2011, a few things had changed. One is I wasn't married any longer. And most of my friends were interested in spiritual development because I had spent probably in like 2000, probably about the same time I got married, 2001, I got really I got committed to my own spiritual development, and that came through yoga. It started through yoga and then just grew like so much does. And so many of my friends and the people I was attracted to being with were into personal development. A ton of them were coaches. I'm in San Francisco, which is like transformational coaching, like Mecca, I guess. And it was around that time that I had two really of my best girlfriends ask me to take photos for their websites. And I wasn't a headshot photographer, so I recommended a headshot photographer to them. And they both were like, no, we really want something that like captures our essence, is what they said. And this was like, at that time, most coaches' websites were like these super glam studio shots, like white, all body con dresses. There was this very particular look. And then there was like banner. That was it. And so there was not this movement like there is now to like capturing who the person really is. And so I was game for doing this with them, and I did photos with them both, and they were so lit up by them. I mean, I thought they were beautiful, but I didn't quite get what they were really like looking for. I mean, obviously got it because we took them, but I didn't quite see it the way they saw it yet. And so that started me kind of in that inquiry about like, oh, well, these are people who are like my closest friends who I love spending time with. Like maybe I could cultivate doing more of this. And just around that time, Marie Forleo's changed her website to be this. It was the first time a website was like really like photos that captured personality. And I think that was like 2011, 2012. And so suddenly there was like this vision for what a personal brand photo could be that was like fun. It was like so unique to the woman. It felt like a magazine, but it also felt like a real life moment with Marie. And I was so into it. I was like, that's awesome. Like, I want to do that.
I think I remember that website. What did it have? Like greens and magentas and golds, and like there were pictures of, or like videos of her hip hop dancing, and like, I don't know. I just remember the colors.
Yes. And there was like this photo on the front, the like homepage image was like her sitting on like some stairs in New York wearing like leather.
Yes.
And like now it's like there's so many of those, but at the time that was so outside the box. It was so different.
I remember one of her next site was like the first one I ever saw with video footage on the banner. And now it's like when we're talking about these things, they're so everyday and normal, but she's such a pioneer for the personal brand.
Totally. She so got it. She so knew that what people were looking for was like, you know, it needed to feel professional, but it also wasn't like there, like, she broke the box of what professional was for personal brands and for coaches. Cause that at that point, the box was like bodycon dress, bright jewel tone in a studio with glammed up makeup and like big hair. And it was I mean, there's a few of my clients who that is like on point for them, but it's not the majority.
Right.
And so, right. So
I love
yes.
that. And it became a bit more relatable. And I think, when people like me saw her website, I could see myself in her because there were, different elements of my personality and the type of work that I wanted to do that she was displaying.
Totally. Right. And did you also feel like you're like, I could hang out with this woman?
Totally.
Like,
And I was
right?
jealous of her. I wanted her hair, all the things, all the emotions.
Which
did
now
it
I'm sure
perfectly.
so many people feel when they see your photos. They're like, oh my God, I see her and I see the version of me that I want to be in her.
Yeah. Amazing. So that was around 2011, 2012. And so you started to see the need for more of this personal branding in that style. So what happened next?
Oh my God. Well, this is where this whole other level came in. I'm so glad you asked about that. I had some girlfriends who run something called Health Coach Institute. It's like this health coach. They teach people how to be health coaches. And they would put on every year this mastermind event. And they started incorporating photography and having part of their time on this retreat be a photo shoot day. There ended up being 2 days. So they hired me to like arrange this huge thing. And of course it was like studio and still like a little bit in that kind of bodycon dresses, but a little bit, some people wore other things, and it was a group of 30 and I created this container before to get to what's here for everybody. And the miracle of doing this is that what I discovered in that shoot was that there were so many people who had so much that they were afraid of that had held them back, and that I somehow knew how to create a container where they felt safe to show up. And so for me, it was like this powerful awareness that there was not only my skill as a photographer, but also like this way of being that invited my clients to just feel like they could just feel safe and beautiful. And for a couple of them, like they were so moved by it. They never had an experience of having photos taken of themselves where they actually felt proud and could see themselves. And so I realized there was this amazing piece that really kind of hooked me, because I was like, oh my God, like I'm actually contributing to this woman. And I do have some men too, but it's like mostly women. Like I'm contributing to her freedom on the planet. And like, how cool is that? In addition to her making sure she has a beautiful website. So that's what happened next.
Wow. And I love the fact that all of this came from the network that you had already, because a lot of people start businesses and they think, oh, I need to go out and source all of these clients or all these, referrals. But so many of us, the people are right there at our fingertips, and
Yes.
they're also giving us clues as to what they want or what's next, or, what steps we should be taking as we move forward on our path. So it sounds like you had kind of like an immediate client base.
Totally. And I think that I love that you're saying this, because it was also like, these are the people I want to spend time with. Like, yeah. I always say that it's ridiculous to me that I get paid to spend days with people I would pay to spend days with, it's like amazing. Right. And so it's like, I'm doing this great work. I'm doing it for someone who I really just admire and respect. And I also get the benefit of having this just incredibly special day with someone who I like. So yeah, I love that you're saying that. Yeah.
And as you move forward with your company, obviously we know there are ups and downs. Did you have any struggles creating the perfect package for these clients? Or were there any challenges that you did have to overcome, or any learning curves that came up?
Yeah. I mean, probably one of the biggest learning curves for me happened as a wedding photographer, I'll say, which is when I started as a photographer, it was 2001. So the internet was e-recipe. It was like e-recipe and like a bunch of like academic institutions. That's like what you would go. It's like you were either in college and you needed to get your syllabus, or like you wanted to look up like a recipe for bean stew or whatever. And that was pretty much it. And so I started there. And so, and my business had to adjust to that. And so one of the biggest challenges, I think, for me, I think I said this at the beginning, was like, I thought I was becoming a photographer, but I really was starting a business. And I didn't realize that I was going to have to like understand marketing and also adjust as the industry had changed, and that I was going to have to learn how to actually sell. That it wouldn't just be like I was going to meet someone and they'd be like, great, I want to give you, that there was, even if they did want to hire me, that there was like a process I had to learn to take them through. And just so many things like managing my time and just creating systems, all those things that were challenging. And I really remember at this one time, it was probably like 2007, 2008, feeling like a little bit hopeless about it, because that was right when everything was changing. And like I had to build a website, which seemed like, now it's like daunting for us for different reasons, but like the idea of even like, it was like there was nothing and then that. And so I hired a business coach who like was just basically like, just keep moving forward. Like you can do this. And I had to just, at that moment, I feel like was the moment when I went from thinking like, oh, I'm a photographer to realizing like I'm actually a business owner who does photography, and that I'm running a business. And so that gave me a lot of, like, I look back on that time, I feel really proud of the business I created, because it's important to me that it doesn't feel like what people kind of expect from creatives, which is like a little bit like you're going to get something really beautiful, but it's going to feel a little bit like wishy-washy or uncertain, that there's a real sense that like, no, this is like you feel like you're in a professional container, I think.
Totally. And I want to talk more about your process in just a second, because that's definitely the feeling that I get every time we work together. So I really appreciate that that's been so intentional. And my question for you around, that period of time when we met, I know that you worked with Gina. From the outside looking in, it was probably really helpful that you got access to her. I don't know if got access is the right phrase, but you were at her conferences. And so a lot of us who were new coaches, I think there were over 200 women in that particular cohort. We got to see you firsthand and got to see Gina's photos. And so it was kind of like a no-brainer. Our aspiration was to work with you. Is that kind of how it worked? And did you, plugging into different programs like that, was that something that helped really grow and expand your business?
Totally, 100%. And I mean, I really appreciate Gina so much, because she was really forward thinking. I mean, our first shoot together was 2012, and it was just around that time that Marie was launching. So she was already seeing that like there was this whole other vision for how to do branding and personal branding. And her website at the time was one of those super bodycon dress, hair, all the things. And so I feel, and I don't know if you have this experience, Emily, I'm actually really curious to hear what you say about this, which is, I think that there have been so many moments in my life where I just was able to like ask the right question of the right person at the right time that led me to where I wanted to go, that I never could have thought to. Like I never could have thought like, well, who's got a big network of coaches that I could get tapped in with who would hire me? Like it was like I sat down with a girlfriend of mine on the couch. We were on a trip to Kauai together. And I was like, I'm really wanting to do more of this branding photography. And she's like, oh, you should meet my friend, Gina DeVee. We're about to host this weekend event. Have I told you the story? We're about to do this. So I sat down with this girl and she's like, oh my God, in like 2 weeks, we're doing this art of feminine feminine manifesting masterclass in LA. You should come and be the photographer. And we've got a webinar in 10 minutes. We'll bring you on it and you can be our fast action bonus. And like, literally, I was just like, I had done hardly any, I was just like, just wanting to do this. So Rose, her name was Rose. She's like, we get on this like Zoom call with Gina, not even Zoom, Skype, right?
Yeah.
Because this is like, so we get on this Skype call with Gina before this webinar they're about to host. I've just barely like broken the edge of this work, because it's like just not really out there that much. And suddenly I'm on this webinar with like a few hundred women describing what I do. And I was their fast action bonus. And that's how I got connected with Gina. And then a month later, Gina had a need for a program she was launching. She like needed photos. She's like, I can't even look at these. And can you come to Santa Barbara? And it was like, I happened to be in LA and it was amazing. So that was our first time working together. And during that shoot, she actually said, and I'm thinking about launching this coaching academy or this coaching program called the Academy. And I want to take a photo to like send as an email to try and get some apprentices to help me build it. And so it was such fortune. And it really is like, I mean, I think part of what's so special about this work is that it is like a web. And I like working with Gina. It's like, I know the kind of extraordinary women that I'm going to work with because they come from her. And then working with Gabby, it's like the same thing. Or working with you, like the women I work with, it's like it's just like, it's like a family of amazing people. So yes, it was so valuable. And
That's
I never
amazing.
could have engineered it. I mean, it was
yeah. Well, and it just goes to show, what power there is in personal connections and professional connections. And, your net worth is in your network, people say. And I see that as well. And it's not just about the money, but it's about doors opening and people helping people. And you're somebody who stands out when people meet you. They feel connected to you. They feel like they already know you. And that's definitely rare. I've had the pleasure of working with some incredible photographers, but you're always that person who has, the most high vibe energy. You're somebody who people want to work with. They feel seen and heard and they feel supported by you. So I'm not surprised that it was such kind of like a domino effect, so to speak. Once one person worked with you, then they're like, you have to work with Wendy, and they tell everyone.
Totally. Thank you. And like you, I also think that there's that piece about intuition. It was like, the thing that had me sit down next to Rose in that moment and like ask her about that, I feel like was such intuition just led. I mean, I didn't know what she was going to say. I just brought it up with her in that moment. And so, yeah.
So one of the things I also want to ask is about pricing, because I remember when I first started with the Academy, and Gina, I think she promoted you in some form or another. And so we knew about your price point, and you were always somebody I aspired to work with, but I felt like I needed to make some money and do some other things first, all the stuff that goes through your mind as a new business owner. And so I'm curious to know, did you start off at the price point you're at now or what you were at then? Or was that something where you had to do some money mindset work and you had to kind of gear yourself up to charge what you charge?
Oh, totally. It's so cool. So totally the second. Yes, the second one. Like I remember actually the first time meeting Gina, which was at that Feminine Art of Manifesting weekend in LA at the Huntley. And she's like, well, tell me about your shoots. And really, I'd only done like these ones with my girlfriends. And then that one I described for you, which was like the big one, and a couple other like headshot ones. And I said to her like, oh, my shoots are like $4,000 and da 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 da. I mean, I played this big game, but like inside I was like, there's no way I'm going to make $4,000 doing this. It's so funny at the time. I mean, kind of like you having the $30,000 month. It's like, who would ever, So I think I started I started with a number that felt, and this is the way it's always been for me. It's like, I started with a number that felt both like a little bit of a stretch, but also I knew was worth the investment. So, and then I just built. And as I grew more and did more and realized a couple of things, one is the understanding of the value of what I was delivering grew, and also understanding what went into doing the shoots and wanting to make sure that like, I mean, a big thing for me in my shoots is like, I don't want to skimp on anything. Like I do not want money to be an issue at all. Like I want my clients to just feel so taken care of. Like there is like, if we need to go to a Michelin star restaurant for lunch, because that's where the photos need to happen, like we're going to go to a Michelin, like I'm going to make sure that's a part of it, And so I think I was just like this slow progression. It was like every like 6 to 8 months, I'd raise my prices and I'd get on a call with the client and I like tell them the new price. And then I just like, that thing that they say of just like sit on your hands, like say the number and sit on your hands. Like
I've never heard that one. That's awesome.
Meaning, like, don't try and justify it.
Yeah.
So I like to sit. Right. And so it grew. And now it's like, it's totally comfortable for me to charge what I charge. I do sometimes charge even more if it feels like it's needed to get where I'm going to go or to do what I'm going to do. So it totally was like, it required some work there.
Yeah.
Yeah, please.
Yeah, I mean, that's the same for most people. And I love how you describe that because we always talk about how people pick price points. And it really is that sweet spot of what is a bit of a stretch, but you know, you can get on the call and be like, this is worth it. Because the worst thing is to get on a call and feel like scared out of your mind to say the price point because someone on the other line is going to feel that.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. And it's okay to feel a little bit of discomfort, but that you're
Yeah.
not. Yeah. And sometimes, I mentor some photographers and like there's some other photography mentors out there who will tell people like how to price. And they'll basically say, well, how many shoots do you want to have a year and how much do you want to make? Divide that and then charge that. And I'm like, if you're just starting, like, if I want to have 10 shoots a year and I want to make $200,000, like I can't really start out charging $20,000 a shoot. Like I just, as much as that sounds great, like, like you
Yeah.
need to build.
Love it. So let's talk a little bit about your process because I know that's really important to you. We've already mentioned a few things regarding this. One of the things that was really important to me and stood out to me the first time we worked together was a process you had me go through on the call together, where we're visioning, what we want the day to look like, getting into the specific details. Can you share a little bit more about what that looks like for people?
Yeah, I love that you're asking about this. Yeah, I mean, like for me, there's two things that are fundamentally important. The first is that I'm collaborating with the person on their vision for their brand. So I'm not creating like a cookie cutter version of like, okay, well, you need this photo and that photo and this photo and this. It's like, I don't know. Like, and even I could have like 6 different women who say they want like elegant, beautiful, sophisticated shots. And each of them would have a totally different interpretation of what that is. So like, it's getting at like, well, what does that mean to you? And really understanding like, what's their fantasy of like their life and what locations do they imagine themselves? What lights them up? Like what has them feel like, yes, this is my life. I cannot believe it, like on the day of, and so so it's first getting into that, understanding getting in their imagination. And then the second piece is really like creating a space where there is just that the day itself feels really like they are so taken care of. I feel like I skipped ahead to the day of, but you're really asking about like the process for visioning, right?
Yeah. And then I know you asked me, on a scale of 1 to 10, how
Oh,
confident
yes.
am I? Is there anything that could come up that would make me feel uncomfortable or a lack of confidence? All of that.
Yeah, I'm so glad you asked. Yeah, because like really, I think what holds so many of us back from having photos that we love, that feel both we love them because they're beautiful, but also feel natural, is because we have all these fears about how basically we have all these beliefs about how we think we should look in photos in order for them to be good. And few of us actually look that version. And most of the time it's like, it's this ever changing, I don't know if you've had that experience. I think I certainly have, where I'm like, at the time, hated the way I looked in the photos and oh my God, I'm so embarrassed. And then I look back years later, I'm like, I look amazing. Like what world was I living in? Like I love that woman. And so many of us have this stuff. And a lot of times it's just like beliefs that we picked up in when we were young. One of my favorite stories to tell is, I think it was 2nd or 3rd grade. I came home with these school photos and I looked super cute. I was wearing a Laura Ashley dress to date it. And, but my hair was like a rat's nest. It looked so messy, but like, I didn't know that was a problem. But then my mom saw the photos and she's like, why couldn't someone brush your hair? She was so upset about that, which like as a mom, I totally would be like, where was the adult to just be like, smooth her hair, But when I heard her say that, I just was like, oh, I'm not good at photos. Like I fail at photos. Like that was the story I built around that. And so it's like the most well-intentioned, my mom who loves me more than anything, says this casual thing. And so most of us have some version of that at some point in our lives. And so much of my working with the clients is not only, like I said, creating like the vision for their brand, but also accessing the part of them that feels uncertain and nervous for a couple of reasons. One is so that I can be obviously aware of the thing that they're feeling self-conscious about on the day of, but also so often it's like once we open up about that, it can disappear. It disappears it. And so, for me, I sometimes will talk about like the photo shoots is like, I like to create an experience that transcends a photo shoot so that like what's actually in the space on the day of is just, it transcends all those like, am I doing this right? Should I be doing this? Should I be doing that? Is like, are my hands in the right position? Like, is my smile too big? Is it not big enough? Like all that story we tell ourselves that actually gets in the way of us having photos we love because we're worried about it. And once we've transcended that, and I think for most of us, like your hair makeup is amazing, you're dressed beautifully, and then you're on this day and that you have this person who's like been willing to hear your fears and like really get them and experience them with you and like tell you that like I've got you.
There's a level of connection that you build before you even meet the person on the photo shoot day, which is so important.
Exactly. Amazing. Right. A level of connection. Exactly. And trust. Totally.
Yeah. And so I'm curious to know how important you feel location is when it comes to a photo shoot, because you've worked with me and I'm very particular about every single small thing, which can be very annoying, but location is one of those. And I'm curious to know how important you think that is.
Oh my God, girl. I gotta tell you, I mean, I love working with you. I like love the specificity. Some clients like I work with are just like, I don't know, you're the photographer, you tell me where I need to be and what I need to wear. Some clients will send me like, 10 Pinterest boards with like the images, it's like, and I love that. I like love both.
Yeah.
But I think when it comes to location, and really when it comes to anything like location, clothing, what you're doing, like it needs to have you feel psyched about life. Like if you are somewhere where you're feeling like, however you're feeling in a space is however you're feeling in a space, however you're feeling in your outfit, however you're feeling about those things is going to get translated. And so for us to take the time, and I think one of the other things I've had the experience of is sometimes is like women, and this is not something that you do, which I really appreciate, is like we're almost afraid to ask for what we want. And so sometimes I'll have clients who I have to just like I have to just listen to their answer when we talk about something and feel into like, are they just saying this because they think they should, or are they actually really feeling this? And that also happens with clothing. Part of the process of going through clothing with my clients beforehand is like, sometimes they'll be pulling things because they think they should. And they don't actually want to wear that thing. And yet there's like a part of them so it's like, no, it's like everything about that day should feel great. And so supporting, and so location, total. And I mean, when we think about different cities, yes, different cities make you feel different ways. Like there's certainly room to get different style shots in multiple cities, but location, all of it is paramount, I think.
Yeah. And thinking about my most recent photo shoot, which is one of the reasons I wanted to have you on, location was definitely everything because it had been something I'd been thinking about for many years. We actually talked about this at least 2 years ago and finally, made it happen. And one of the cool things I thought about the hotel that we were at, which is called the Greenbrier, is that we got to do everything on property. Whereas, for example, when we've done New York together or San Francisco, we were driving around and going to different locations. And I know you do an amazing job at scouting things out ahead of time. But there was something really special and almost like effortless about being in one place for the entire day.
Totally. And I love that. I mean, like there was different flavors, it's like the San Francisco, it's like, that was such an adventure. And we were kind of like, you get this like feeling of like this photographic adventure out in San Francisco, and especially for you, since so much of what you do is that sort of location independence and giving people like, oh, they can be out in the world. And I will say, I love when I work with a client who's got the vision that you had, where we've got this epic property, tons of options. Or sometimes I'll have clients who will rent a house, an Airbnb somewhere, and we'll just basically do like the whole shoot in one location. And yours had so much variety and so
Yeah.
much. Like I still feel like we could have done a whole second day there and had just as many great
Oh, for
locations as the
sure.
first day. It was such an incredible spot.
Yeah, it was amazing. And I just want to kind of bring people into how I personally think about location and the decisions that I'm making. And for me, as the company owner and the visionary, I always want to think about, what am I displaying to our clients? What is being translated through these photos? And like you said, a lot of what we do is travel and freedom and abundance. And so picking a beautiful hotel that definitely displays that, or showing scenes of me shopping, or showing James and I toasting champagne, like all of that conveys the message that I want to convey. And I really learned a lot of that through you, because you kept saying to me, well, I don't know what the story is, or what is the story here that we're showing in this photo, because it needs to translate and make sense to your audience.
Totally. And what I loved about Greenbrier for you especially was that so much of what you do is help people make their dreams come true. And that shoot there with you was you having a dream come true. And that even if people don't know that, it's like that energy comes through in those photos. They're like, that is a woman who is making her life happen the way she wants it to happen,
Yeah.
And so like, without even knowing the story. So I love that. Yeah. Yeah.
And I think, for me, in preparation, what I normally do is, before we have our prep call, I will have thought about the wardrobe, thought about, if we're doing a city, are there any photos I've seen on Instagram of other influencers or people taking shots there? I know there was a really beautiful area in San Francisco, a restaurant that had an awning that was black and white striped that I had seen in other photos, whether it was yours or on Instagram. So just taking note of where I want the photos, as well as, the clothes. And then having that time with you on the prep call is really powerful to actually go through everything. And then on the day of, you come to my room and look at all the clothes. We think about which room in the hotel they would fit the best in. For this one in particular, we actually walked around and you took note of which outfits we would wear in which room, so that we could be as organized as possible. But I think I also said to you, like, I really want to feel into it on the day, and it might change. So sorry, but that's kind of how I work, because there are times where things just end up being organic. And there have been plenty of moments where we end up in locations we never thought we'd be able to be in, like the penthouse at the Plaza Hotel in New York City, right, or this amazing Kate Spade balcony, and get an epic shot. So there is an element of planning combined with intuition.
Totally. I love that. That is such an important piece of it. And I'm so glad you brought that up. That it is, I like to think of it like I usually will tell people, like, I'll come up with like a vision for our day, like a roadmap. And then we'll go out and we'll have that roadmap that's, and the clothing, I think for you, because you've done this so many times, it's like, you have a sense of the flow, and you also have such a clear vision of like what looks great on you, and a feeling of like and so many of us, like, just that feeling of like actually having someone else tell us, okay, like that outfit's going to look great here. That's going to look great here. You don't even have to think about it. It's just a relief. So it's like, that's the roadmap that I usually will tell people, like, we go out with this roadmap, but we also are open to the creative impulse of the universe. It's like, we aren't rigid, but we also don't have to worry. Like, we've got a plan and we can totally deviate from that plan at any point. And so, right, like that balcony and just that perfect outfit. Like, I don't remember where we were going to wear that dress before, but like it was made for that balcony, and just, yeah.
Yeah, it all worked out so well. And I love that, if you're somebody who is more particular like me, it still works with your energy and your vibe. And if you're somebody who needs a bit more hand holding, then you can totally help them in that respect as well.
Exactly. Right. Like, and I think of it as like, whatever that person needs on the day of, to feel relaxed and present. So that so like, if what feels best is like, I know that I'm just going to pick what I want, when I want, where I want it. Like cool. If what you need is just to be like, okay, I'm going to organize all the clothes and tell you what to wear when, like, perfect. Like, whatever contributes to that, to you and to anyone, just feeling like, yes, this is my day. I feel amazing. And it's going exactly the way I want it to go. Like that feeling.
Yeah. And on the actual day, some of the things I wanted to point out in terms of my perspective, I really love how you're obviously looking at me through the lens of the camera and you can see what looks good and what doesn't. And for example, on this particular shoot, I wore suits for the first time. And so there was a lot of like instruction around how to put my arm on my hip, where to put it. Did we want the suit jacket closed or open? Did we want the shirt underneath tucked in or not? And so all of that is hopefully stuff that puts people's mind at ease, especially if they're doing their first photo shoot, to know that there are people like you who will be able to direct them and give them guidance as to how to stand, how to hold their arms, all of those key pieces.
Totally. I always describe it as like, I want you to look both natural and have the poses be flattering. So it's like, how do we make sure it feels like both? Like, it's not like you're in an awkward position, but you also look great for the camera.
Yeah. And can you share, maybe we can each share like 3 top tips for the photo shoot day? I'd love to hear your thoughts if you could sum it up.
Oh my God. Okay. Well, I think my number one tip is always like the best, like there's no prep you can do really that's going to help you show up fully on the day of, other than prep to just show up fully on the day of, if you know what I mean. It's like, you can't plan how you're going to look, how you're looking, like, how you're going to smile at the camera or not smile at the camera. It's like, I have sometimes have clients who will be like, I practice posing in the mirror. And I'm like, well, it's like, you got to be in it. And so the number one thing always for me is like, do everything you can to be present in the day and with the day. And the second tip probably goes to that, which is like, if you're going to work with a professional, like, hire someone who you totally trust. And it's like, a lot of it, I think, comes down to those, like, you have to really feel like this person's paying attention to all the details, so I don't have to think about that. Like, this person's going to take all the worries out of my mind so I can just feel great. Like that, those are probably my 2 top ones. Can't think of a third one. What are yours? I'm curious to hear what yours are.
Yeah, so mine would be to save as many pictures as possible in terms of hair and makeup, because I feel like when you're always great at picking amazing people to do hair and makeup, but if they're doing it for the first time, that can be challenging, like to nail it. And I definitely have a way that I like my hair that, sometimes I'll end up tweaking things or whatever. And that's okay too. Like, be honest about how you're feeling and what you need. That kind of flows into the second tip. I think, probably every single photo shoot I've had with you, I've had some sort of meltdown, if we're being completely honest. There's a lot that goes into photo shoots. There's a lot of pressure that I put on myself. There's, this recent one, my Instagram account got shut down on the day of the photo shoot. So like all these silly things, but it can be a lot. And I think if you're somebody like me who cares a lot about the process, it does create a lot of emotion. But I always appreciate you in our relationship, and that I can be honest with you about how I'm feeling. And like you said a few minutes ago, it's important to have that relationship with your photographer that, you can trust them and know that they've got your back. And then my third one would be just to be bold. I think we've done that every single shoot. And yeah, there's a part of me that remembers, for example, our Paris shoot with James and me, and thinking about us, walking around Paris on the bridge. Like, it was very kind of like, I felt like, is this too in your face? Is it too boastful? Is it too much? I'm a girl from Ohio. He's a guy from, England. And what are we doing here? But then I realized that me showing up and me displaying what I desire for my life and the way I live my life, that's in service to other people. And that translates into Chanel bags and beautiful clothes and, all the things that are definitely authentic to me, that I think sometimes people feel like they need to hide or downplay. And I think the best thing you can do in a photo shoot is to be bold and to be yourself and do that 100%.
I'm going to double down on that one, because I think so often it's like people do that. They're like, but what if people don't like Chanel bags, or what if this turns people? It's like, let them be turned off. Like, it's okay for 2 reasons. One is, enough people love Chanel bags that you don't have to worry about it. But the second one is, it's not really the details of the shoot that people are noticing. It's the energy that you're bringing to it. And so like, if you're showing up and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm walking around the streets of Paris. I've got a Chanel bag. I'm with my handsome husband. I have like making great money. Like, I can't believe I could like, that's what people are going to feel in those way more than the details. And so, and that's what I think most of the clients I'm working with are actually selling. It's not the details, it's the lifestyle.
Yes.
It's the experience. It's so I'm totally, I love that. Be bold. I think, yes, be you, and it's like, if you is Chanel bags and Louboutins in Paris, great. If you is like a great pair of jeans and a t-shirt on your couch with your cat, great. Like, whichever it is, just do it fully. Yeah.
And we talked a bit about personal brands and their transformation back in 2012. Would you say there's anything different that's working for people right now in that space when it comes to photography?
Yeah, that's such a great question. I feel like people are becoming more and more just willing to be that last one, that bold piece. And that for me is an evolution. Because I think at the beginning there was a lot of like I want my photos to look like Marie's, or I want my photos to look like Gina's. Like, I want my photos to look like Emily's. Like, they thought like that's what they needed to do to get to success. But I feel like people are more and more discovering that like what they need their photos to do is to look like them and to be fully them. And so that to me has been what I think of as most successful, is just people genuinely claiming who they are fully and being willing to be seen that way.
I love that.
Yeah.
So one of the questions we always ask our guests here on the I Heart My Life show is, what is one way people can create a life that's better than their dreams? And before you answer that, I just want to point out, you're sitting in Hawaii right now, this gorgeous scene behind you. If anyone has heard a little bit of wind or birds chirping, that is why. You get to travel the world. You work with incredible clients. From the outside looking in, it doesn't get better than that. So I'm really curious to know what your answer is to this question.
Oh my God. Okay. Well, say the question one more time, because I got
what is one way
by, like, how amazing my life is. You're talking.
What is one way people can create a life that's better than their dreams and exceeds their wildest imagination?
Yeah. I mean, oh my God, what a great question. Okay. I have this belief that the universe is constantly conspiring to delight us. And so I think the first thing is to believe that there are forces out there conspiring to give you a life beyond your wildest dreams. And then probably, like, I know this has been a bigger piece of your teaching recently. It's like trusting your intuition every step of the way, that you will get there. Like, I often will create my version of like a 5-year plan. Is I will just write out a 1-sentence thing about like what I want my life to look and feel like in 5 years. And then I just surrender it to the universe to lead me and trust my intuition along the way. Like, and so I think that that's it. It's like trust, and then trust both the universe and trust that inner guidance.
Thank you. All right. Do you have a sentence for right now?
Oh gosh, you mean for what I want my dreams?
Yeah.
That sentence. Yeah. I mean, right now, the things that I'm relaxing into are having ease into this next chapter of my life. I'm about to turn 50. I'm not about to, I have a couple more years, but I'm getting close to it. And so there's this like whole second chapter that feels like it has with 50. So it's like ease along into that new chapter of my life, and also to be experiencing financial windfall.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Love it. So where can people find you, Wendy? Because I know everyone's going to want to work with you after this episode.
Oh, thank you, girl. They can find me online. Wendy, http / Wendy.photo is the easy way to get there.
Love it.
Yeah. And they can find me on social, Instagram at Wendy K. Yalom. Those are probably the best places to keep track of me.
And then they can look at all the beautiful photos and be inspired.
Totally. Yes. 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 And like, I would just encourage anybody who's even just thinking about it to like send us an email. Like, let's talk, let's see. Like you said, I think there's sometimes this belief that like, and I trust that people always are pulled to do it when it is the right time. But sometimes there's this idea that like you should be somewhere else or like, and I've had
you need to lose 10 pounds before you have your photo shoot and all the excuses.
Totally. Or I just had a call earlier today with someone who was like, I just felt like I didn't want to make the investment. So I hired this woman, I hired the hair and makeup artist and all these things. And like, I got 700 photos and 2 of them are like, fine, and it's like, I'm just like, just save your money and energy and heartbreak and like, yeah.
Go for it. Yeah. So what is your email again? Studio at
wendyyalom.com. Yeah. So that's probably the website. If you don't find it, wendy.photo, which is a great way to find it. And there's a place to drop an email there, is wendyyalom.com.
Great. Yeah. And I want to just reiterate what you just said, that when I chose to invest in working with you and some of the other people I've worked with, I knew that would create such a massive ROI for me. And that if I had stunning photos, just like when I look out there at the world of coaches, photos are one of the main things that capture my attention from the offset. And so when people come to your website and see that it's, kind of lackluster, or it doesn't display the energy that you wanted to display, like that's going to result in you not getting the sales that you desire or deserve. And so when you invest in personal branding, it changes everything.
Totally. And, I really appreciate you for being so vulnerable. Actually, I want to acknowledge this because I think one of the other things that people think is like, they'll get to a certain point where it won't feel scary. And it's like, I work with plenty of like 7, 8, 9-figure coaches who've had hundreds of shoots, and like still every morning before our shoot, they feel a little like nervous or so emotional or like overwhelmed. There's like stuff that comes up. They still kill it on the day of, and we deliver amazing photos, but there's like, you might never not feel that. And that's okay. Like you still will get great results.
Exactly. Especially with someone like you supporting them and holding the space.
Thank you, girl. Oh my
awesome.
God.
Well, this has been amazing. One of my favorite conversations. Thank you for sharing your story and all of your wisdom with our community. And like I said, I hope everyone emails you. I hope everyone goes to the website and gets inspired. And just remember, if you're listening and you're excited about this episode and you want to work with Wendy, don't let anything hold you back. You are deserving. It is possible for you. It will be a game changer, and it will be one of the best days of your life just because of Wendy's amazing energy. So go for it. Thank you, Wendy.
Oh my gosh, girl. Thank you. You're welcome. Thank you. Just a pleasure to know you and to always, and every time I interact with you. So thank you.
Likewise. Thanks, Wendy. I hope you enjoyed this episode of the I Heart My Life show. Now do us a favor and tell people about this episode. It's truly our duty to make sure that the I Heart My Life movement is spread far and wide. The truth is, life can be challenging, but it is possible for all women to love themselves and their lives. And while you're at it, send a link to this episode to 3 of your friends today, or maybe even post it on social media. Use the hashtag #IHeartMyLifeShow. That's hashtag #IHeartMyLifeShow. And if you'd like to help me personally, then please rate and review this podcast on Apple Podcasts. Give us some stars, cheer us on, and leave a review, because believe it or not, that stuff actually really does help. And I read all of them. Please remember, everything you desire is meant for you and possible. Keep showing up, taking action, and believing in your dreams.